Okay. Um, Hello. We're here. We're here for. Okay, we're good now. Um, I do apologize. I've been having some technical difficulties on this, so thank you for staying with me, and I appreciate your being here. So we're going to read Sheriff in a Small Town. Do me a favor, if you can hear me, put something on here just so I know that you're still with me. And we're going to read chapter one of Sheriff in a Small Town 2. So, again, I do apologize. I'm trying to get this computer to work has not been easy. Now, this is playing telephone. Deputy Talbot arrived at the courthouse early, rubbing his hands in expectation. He was ready to set up an extravagant prank. Opening the door, he silently cursed and finding the sheriff already at the desk going over paperwork. It seemed as if Rocky was determined always to be the first on the job when they were both working. The sound of someone badly singing met his ears. Peering around the door, he saw Agnes slumped dejectedly on the bunk, singing, "Nobody knows the trouble I've seen," in a moderate bass. To see the sheriff in residence early was a normal occurrence. To see the sheriff's wife incarcerated was not. He closed the door quietly and approached Rocky. "Hey, Rock, I know folks don't always get along, but locking up your wife? That's a new low, man. What happened? You two have a fight?" Rocky looked up, grinning from ear to ear. "Nah, Agnes wanted to see what it felt like to be in jail. I was happy to provide her with the opportunity." Agnes lay back on the cot and tried to dispel the dark thoughts assailing her from her incarceration. She was attempting to really get into the feeling of a person who was not a hardened criminal and who found themselves placed in jail. It was distressing, and a feeling of utter hopelessness enveloped her. She rolled over and faced the wall, with her tears falling on the pillow. Hold on one second. I'm going to. Do you ever have a computer that you just can't work? Trying to find out if you guys are still here with me. See one person here still. Okay, and we're going to continue on. Sorry about that. Lee Morris strode in to pay a fine. Hearing soft sniffling from the cells, he felt sympathy for whoever had been jailed. They were crying. It could only mean they were not a hardened criminal. Out of curiosity, he glanced over to see if anyone he knew was in the cell. He was surprised to see the prisoner was a female, and an attractive one, too. The look of the hair seemed familiar, and he ran over the possibilities. Finished paying, he asked Rocky if he could be told who was in the cell. Talbot shook his head pityingly. "The sheriff put his own wife in there." Hal was aghast. "No sheriff would do that." Rocky sadly acknowledged what Talbot had said. Hal shook his head. "Well, I always figured you were a law and order kind of guy, but man alive, I never thought I'd live to see something like this." He left, still shaking his head in wonder. Stopping into the co-op for some cabbage, he bumped into Laura Thompson. Seeing the look of consternation on his face, she asked what was wrong. "Hell, I never thought to see it, but the sheriff had to lock up his own wife." Laura's hand went to her heart. "Did he say why?" He shrugged. "Nah, maybe she just burnt his dinner. He's a nice guy, but I'd sure hate to cross him." Laura went to check out and brought the subject up. "I just heard that the sheriff's wife ruined his dinner and he threw her in jail. Can you believe it?" Cashier Tut shook her head. The information was passed on to Cat Copeland, who wanted a pack of Beeman's gum. "Sheriff must have a powerful temper. I heard his wife ruined his dinner and he threw her in jail. He was probably trying something new and he didn't like it." Cat was aghast and feared on giving the sheriff a piece of her mind. Bumping into Pat Peters, She let him in on the latest. Sheriff's temper is out of control if he locks up his wife because she messed up his dinner. She must have added something that disagreed with him. Pat nodded and reminded her that she had a meeting at the library. She slapped a thigh and rushed off to attend the meeting. Pat was seated outside the general store resting when he was joined by Hank Setter. After a while, Pat brought up the subject of the sheriff. I just heard the sheriff's wife tried to poison him and he locked her up. She seemed like such a nice person, too. Hank shook his head. Well, looks can be deceiving. Hank went home for supper and brought the news to his wife. Seated over his pot roast, he brought her up to speed. Well, they're saying up in town how the sheriff's wife had everyone fooled, and she's really a murderess. She tried to off the sheriff, but he found out and he put her in jail, and I guess she'll be going to the chair. His wife fanned herself and ran down the block to speak to the deputy's wife. She was pounding on the screen door, calling him at the same time. Michaela, I just heard the sheriff's wife is a murderess. Can you believe it? And here you are, a close friend of hers. Michaela didn't need or want to hear more. She grabbed her clutch and burst through the door, almost hitting Hank's wife and bowling her over. Michaela saw Agnes walking slowly home in a thoughtful mood. Putting on a burst of speed, Michaela caught hold of her friend. Oh, thank God you escaped. Come on, we got to get you off the street and hid. She pulled on Agnes, who was rooted to the spot. Michaela, what has gotten into you? Michaela was pulling harder and considering picking Agnes up and carrying her to safety. From down the street came the familiar sound of the squad car. Michaela panicked and pushed Agnes through some bushes. Rocky drove past, smiled, and waved to her as he headed for home. Michaela leapt through the bushes to see Agnes putting lotion on some scratches. Michaela knelt at her side. Why'd you do it? She pleaded. What'd Rocky do for you to try and kill him? The lotion dropped and Agnes froze. Say that again? Well, word about town is that you tried to murder Rocky. Agnes leapt to her feet and tore off home. Her slam-bang entrance caused Rocky to drop a bowl and hurry to meet her. Rocky, folks thinks I tried to kill you. Rocky burst into laughter, which quickly died on his lips as he saw a mob forming outside their home. From the angry shouts of many voices, it was hard to tell what was being said, but it was clear they were there with a purpose. Rocky stepped up onto the porch and raised his hand, asking for quiet. Folks stopped shouting. Someone wanted to tell me why you all are here? Someone from the back gave the answer. Bring her out, Sheriff. We don't want a murderess in town. Even if she is your wife, it won't do. You're trying to protect her. The law's the law for everyone. Rocky sat on the stoop in shock. The crowd gathered closer as he sat there shaking his head. He looked up and saw Lee. Lee, you saw my wife sitting in a cell today, right? Lee nodded. Yep, sure thing, Sheriff. Well, do you know why? I just figured she maybe made you powerful mad, though. Rocky nodded. And what did you consider she had done to make me so mad? Well, maybe burnt your supper or something. Rocky laughed along with the crowd. Knowing Lee was very serious about his food, he agreed. Well, Lee, I guess from your point of view, that would have done it. Did you tell anyone about it? Oh, sure. I told Miss Thompson there. Rocky looked over to Laura Thompson. And you would just naturally tell someone else. Who did you tell? He pointed over to the cashier at the co-op. Well, I told her that Miss Stone had probably burnt your dinner and made you mad enough to jail her. Someone piped up. I heard she had put something in your supper that made you sick. Another voice. I heard it was poison. Round and round the tale went from person to person and back again. Rocky stood up and leaned against the porch post. Folks, I think what happened was a small thing that had been blown out of all proportion through telling and retelling. Agnes came out a little bewildered. Well, I asked Rocky to lock me up. I was curious what it must feel like to hear the door clang shut and know that your days of freedom are over. And I enjoyed the experience. I apologize for the confusion we caused. Townsfolk dispersed, laughing and joking. Rocky finished making a lunch for himself, Agnes and Michaela. As they ate, Agnes reached over and grasped Michaela's hand. Michaela, you may have thought I did something terrible, but you stood by me, and I'll never forget it. Rocky smiled both. Yeah, it's nice when you find out who your real friends are. He finished eating and headed back to relieve Talbot so he could go get his meal. All right, that was that one. The next, some of these chapters are kind of small, so we're going to do about 2 or 3 of them about a mystery man that comes into town and is a threat to Rocky. So, and Talbot. So that's it for today. I appreciate you being here. If you want to stick around and talk a little bit, let me know. Hello. All right, so that's going to be it for today. I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to being with you on our next reading. So have a good day, be good, and be good to yourself.